Magic Tree House, Volume 7, Sunset of the Saber-Tooth. Chapter 7, The Sorcerer's Gift. The sorcerer didn't speak. He stared through the eye holes of the owl mask. "Help us, please," said Annie. The sorcerer threw a rope into the pit. Jack grabbed it. "He wants to pull us up," said Annie. Jack looked up. The sorcerer was gone. "Where did he go?" Jack said. "Tug on the rope," said Annie. Jack tugged. The rope tightened. It began rising. "I'll go first," said Annie cheerfully. "Annie, this isn't a game," warned Jack. "Don't worry, I'll be careful." Jack gave her the rope. "Okay, but hold on tight." Annie held the rope with both hands. She pushed her feet against the side of the pit. She rose into the air with the rope. She kept pressing against the side of the pit until she reached the top. Jack saw the sorcerer reappear and held Annie up. Then they moved out of sight. Jack was puzzled. The sorcerer had used both hands to help Annie, so who held the other side of the rope? The great creature, just like a circus elephant. "Whoa," said Annie. She clutched the mammoth's ear to keep it from falling off. The sorcerer helped Jack climb onto the mammoth. "Thanks," said Jack. Then the sorcerer reached into a pouch. He pulled out a smooth white bone and handed it to Jack. The bone was hollow. It had 4 holes along one side and 2 at another. "Oh man, I think it's his flute," said Jack. "The book said they make flutes from mammoths." Jack tried to give the flute back to the sorcerer. "Nice," he said politely, but the sorcerer held up his hand. "He wants you to keep the mammoth bone," said Annie. "Mammoth bone! Hey, maybe this is the third thing." Jack looked at the sorcerer. "Do you know Morgan?" The sorcerer did not answer, but his eyes sparkled with kindness. He turned away from Jack and Annie and untied the mammoth's rope. Then he whispered in the ear of the giant woolly creature. When the mammoth stood up, Jack gripped Annie's coat to keep from falling off. He felt miles above the ground. He nested behind Annie in the deep between the mammoth's head and her huge curved back. The mammoth took slow, plodding steps across the snow, then picked up speed. "Where are we going?" said Jack as they bumped up and down. "To the treehouse." "So how does he know where it is?" "She just knows." Jack looked back. The sorcerer was standing in the snow watching them. But at the moment the clouds parted and the sun came out. Jack was blinded by sunlight on the snow. He squinted to see, but the sorcerer had vanished. Chapter 8, The Parade. The huge mammoth walked across the open plain. "Look," said Annie. She pointed to a herd of elk in the distance. They had great white antlers. "There," said Jack as a herd of reindeer came into the view. They pranced gracefully across the snow. Then a woolly rhino joined them on the open plain. Then a bison, then elk, reindeer, rhino, and bison moved along with them at a distance. They seemed to be escorting Jack and Annie back to the treehouse. The snow sparkled with sunlight. "This is a great parade," Jack thought. "Fantastic!" They were getting closer and closer to the grove of tall trees. "I told you, Lulu's taking us home." But just then the mammoth let out a cry. All the other animals bounded off. Peanut started to squeak. Jack looked around. Behind them, the saber-tooth was slinking across the sunlit snow. The woolly mammoth roared and plunged forward. Jack and Annie nearly fell off. Jack clutched Annie. She and Peanut clutched the mammoth's slaggy hair. But Jack knew a saber-tooth could kill any creature, including a mammoth. The huge tiger's head was down. His burning eyes were fixed on the mammoth. His long white fangs glinted in the sunlight. Master of the animals. The saber-tooth crept forward. Jack stared in horror. "Play the flute." "Is she nuts?" "Try." Jack held the mammoth bone flute to his lips. He blew. The flute made a strange sound. The tiger froze. He glared at Jack. Jack's hands shook. The tiger growled. He took another step. The mammoth roared and stomped the ground. "Play it! Keep playing!" Jack blew again. The saber-tooth froze again. Jack kept blowing until he ran out of breath. The tiger sneered. "He's still here," whispered Annie. "Keep it up." Jack closed his eyes. He took a deep breath. Then he blew as hard and as long as he could. He covered and uncovered the holes on the bone. The music sounded strange, as if it was coming from another world. He's leaving, Annie whispered. Jack raised his eyes. The saber-tooth was slinging off towards the cliffs. We did it! Jack lowered the flute. He felt very tired. The mammoth waved her trunk happily. To the treehouse, Lulu, said Annie. The woolly mammoth snorted. Then she lumbered over to the tallest tree. From the back of the mammoth, Jack grabbed the rope ladder. He held it for Annie. She stroked the mammoth's giant ear. Bye, Lulu. Thank you, she said. Annie grabbed Peanut. She started up, climbed too. After they disappeared into the treehouse, Jack climbed onto the ladder. He looked back at the woolly mammoth. Bye, girl, he said. Go home now and watch out for the saber-tooth. The mammoth walked away into the sunset. When Jack couldn't see her anymore, he started up the rope ladder. He pulled himself into the treehouse. Ta-da! Said Annie. She handed the Pennsylvania book to Jack. Jack smiled. Now he was positive they had found the third end thing. Their mission was complete. Before we leave, we have to give our coats back, said Annie. Oh, right, said Jack. They took off their reindeer skin coats and dropped them to the ground. Brrr. I hope the Cro-Magnon people find them. Jack stared out the window. He wanted to take one last look at the prehistoric world. The sun was setting behind the hills. 4 people were crossing the snowy plain. It was the Cro-Magnon family. Hey! Shouted Annie. Shh! The Cro-Magnon stopped and peered in Annie and Jack's direction. We left your reindeer skins down there. Annie pointed at the ground. The tallest person stepped forward and raised his spear. Time to go, said Jack. He grabbed the Pennsylvania book. He found the picture of Frog Creek and pointed at it. I wish we could go home, he said. Goodbye. Good luck, Annie called, waving out the window. The wind started to blow. The treehouse started to spin. It spun faster and faster. Then everything was still. Absolutely still. 10. This age. Bert stank. It was soft and warm. I hope they found their coats. Me too. He pushed his glass into place. Hey, you! How did you find the sorcerer? Asked Peanut. Squeak, it's a secret, huh? Said Annie. She turned to Jack. Where's the flute? He held up the mammoth bone. Then he placed it on the M carved onto the floor, next to the mango from the rainforest, next to the moonstone from the time of ninjas. Moonstone, mango, mammoth bone. And he said, we need just one more thing. The Morgan will be free from her spell tomorrow. Annie patted Peanut on the head. Bye, you, she said. She started down the rope ladder. Jack gathered his things. He paused and glanced at the mouse. She stared at him with big brown eyes. Thanks again for helping us. Then he climbed down the rope ladder and jumped onto the ground. Jack and Annie ran through the Frog Creek woods on their street. Their neighborhood looked rosy in the sunset. It's great to be back in this age, said Jack.